Come in.
Yes, if it stays fine, perhaps we could have a round later.
Thank you, Sergeant. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm embarrassed, my lord, that this disagreement should have arisen and we should be obliged to waste your very valuable time. It's my submission that the resurrection is scarcely a topic we can discuss with any degree of seriousness.
Yes, Mr. Bentham, whereas you, Mr. Lamb, hold that the resurrection is a matter of fact and not a legend or myth or...
Indeed, sir.
You sit down, gentlemen.
Thank you, Lord.
With all respect to my learned friend, these things simply do not happen. As a man of the world, my lord, you will surely agree that when a man is dead, he's dead.
Your logic is impeccable, Mr. Benton. Do carry on.
Oh, I can bring to the court any number of experts. Men of vast medical and scientific knowledge, all of whom will testify to the fact that it is not possible to raise a man from the dead.
My lord, those same experts would doubtless admit that it is impossible to create a man's life in the first place. Does my learned friend deny that we are here?
Circumstances are different.
The principle is the same. I submit that if there be an agency capable of creating life, then it is possible, reasonable to suppose, that there is an agency capable of restoring life when it is lost. Would we deny to the craftsman who builds a clock the technical ability to rewind it when it stops?
Though common sense would seem to indicate that a resurrection is, shall we say, unlikely, the onus is upon you, Mr. Lamb, to prove your case.
As your lordship pleases. I should like to draw your attention to the affidavits.
Are there no witnesses, Mr. Lamb? One can hardly cross-examine an affidavit.
As my learned friend is well aware, the witnesses in this case have been dead for 1900 years. What we're discussing is an historical event.
Then these are not sworn depositions as such, but historical writings, like those of Pliny, Tacitus, Plutarch.
I accept, my lord, that these witnesses, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul, and Peter, were all men of transparent character, men to whom the truth was of paramount importance.
Come. We are all men of the courts. The witness who most strongly protests his truthfulness is invariably the witness who lies.
No, just a moment, Mr. Benton. I have taken the time to glance through some of these affidavits, and my impression overall is that they were written by men of integrity.
My lord,
which is not to say that they wrote the truth, which is yet to be proved, but in my opinion, they wrote what they believe to be the truth. Now, do you have any specific evidence, Mr. Lamb, to support this?
My lord, the testimony speaks for itself. These were not men sitting down as a council to invent a new religion. They were ordinary individuals, faithfully recording what they heard and saw. This includes failure, doubt, despondency, betrayal, all the things which, had they been trying to impress, they would have sought to conceal.
Yes. What is the substance of their testimony?
In brief, that Jesus Christ was executed by the Romans and buried in a small cave. The entrance was securely blocked by a large rock, and guards were posted to ensure that nobody stole the body. 3 days later, various friends of Jesus came, found the rock had been removed, and the body gone. Thereafter, Jesus was seen alive by a great number of people, in one instance by upwards of 500.
Yes. Mr. Benton.
Oh, this raises a number of points, my lord, if we may take them in order.
Yes, please do.
There are discrepancies. One account suggests the friends came to the grave while it was dark. Another records the sun as being up. One talks of a visit by one woman, another by 3, yet another by several women. But put these accounts side by side, my lord, they simply do not tally.
Do you not accept this, Mr. Lamb?
My lord, it is my submission that no single witness refutes what is said by another, rather that each is recording a different aspect of the same event.
Yes, well, this problem holds no difficulties for me, Mr. Benton. In substance, the accounts agree. In detail, they differ. Accustomed as I am to sifting the testimony of witnesses, I should have suspected collusion had they agreed in every detail. Do you concur?
If it pleases your lordship.
And do you have anything to add, Mr. Lamb?
I should like you to consider the psychology. We have the friends and followers of Jesus Christ, who, despite his teaching, persisted in the belief that he would restore the kingdom of Israel, get rid of the Roman overlords, and take up some form of earthly throne in Jerusalem. Then, almost suddenly, their bubble burst. This great savior, who was to do such wonderful things, was tried and executed like a common criminal. Now, the reaction of those friends was one of crushing disappointment. We had hoped, they said, that he was the one who would redeem Israel. Jesus, it seemed, had failed them by letting himself be killed. It merely proved that he was like any other mortal. After 3 years of excitement, hope, and promise, their leader was dead.
Yes. So much is understood. They were disappointed, but what point are you making?
My lord, they were more than disappointed. They were shattered, totally disillusioned, and terrified that by their association with Jesus, they would share his fate. Now, what, I ask, with respect to your lordship, could take those frightened men huddled away in some attic room and persuade them to declare themselves openly, not cheerfully, but joyfully proclaiming themselves followers of this executed criminal? No longer afraid, but heroically facing torture and martyrdom. Now, I submit that only the resurrection could have effected that change.
Mr. Benton?
My lord, the resurrection was a simple case of mistaken identity. Either the man who died was not Jesus Christ, or if he was, the man who later appeared was somebody else.
My lord,
Yes, Mr. Lamb?
to say that Jesus Christ was well known would be something of an understatement. By the standards of his day, he was a famous celebrity. Indeed, it was his immense popularity which caused the religious authorities, out of fear and jealousy, to plot his downfall. I submit that it would have been impossible publicly to execute a man purporting to be Jesus Christ and no one watching know the difference.
Unlikely, but not strictly impossible, Mr. Lamb.
Or that his own mother and aunt, near enough to him to hold a conversation, should fail to observe that this man wasn't actually their own flesh and blood.
Mr. Benton?
Well, of two unlikely alternatives, my lord, I find impersonation easier to believe than resurrection.
Yes, I agree. It's a difficult one. Do you have further evidence, Mr. Lamb?
Oh, indeed so, my lord. Perhaps the most crucial question in this investigation is, as so often in our profession, what happened to the body?
Ah, yes, the body.
Now, there's no shred of doubt, logical or historical, that the body did disappear.
A categoric assertion. You wish to question it, Mr. Benton?
Most certainly. There are several possibilities to explain the apparent disappearance. In brief, if the body wasn't found in the particular grave in question, then either it had been removed by person or persons unknown, or the empty grave was the wrong grave.
My lord, there are objections to this line of reasoning. Having executed him and destroyed him as a folk hero, the last thing that the authorities needed was the story of a resurrection gaining currency. The easiest way to scotch any rumor would be to produce the corpse. Look, my submission is that the Jewish authorities would have turned Jerusalem upside down in their attempt to find that body. Within weeks, the city was buzzing with the suggestion that Jesus was alive, and yet there is not one hint in history that so much as one solitary individual had the faintest idea where that body lay.
I concede that it is unlikely, in view of my learned friend's submissions, that the authorities were responsible for removing the body. I submit, therefore, that it was his followers themselves who stole the body and concealed it in order to give weight to their deception that the man Jesus had risen from the dead.
And then, my lord, knowing that what they declared was untrue, would they risk persecution, torture, and death to persuade people that it was true? Why should they do that? Moreover, as a later witness testifies, they were flogged and stoned, burned, fed to the lions, even crucified. I mean, is it conceivable that men should suffer this in defense of what they knew to be a lie?
Mr. Benton?
My lord, I should like to adjust my position and submit that the man Jesus did not, in fact, die.
You wish to adduce this as an additional argument,
Yes, my lord.
in spite of the fact that it runs counter to your previous
Oh,
argument,
no, this is an alternative argument, my lord.
by which you acknowledge that your previous arguments were not infallible.
If it pleases your lordship.
It doesn't. Please state your new submission.
The mode of execution was by crucifixion, my lord. Such are the exigencies of that particular form that some men would remain for several hours alive, pushing themselves up by their feet in order to breathe more easily.
Oh, very dreadful. Do carry on.
At some stage, the executioner would break the condemned men's legs, which swiftly brought about death by asphyxia.
I hope you have a reason for telling me all this, Mr. Benton.
I do indeed, my lord. For the testimony indicates that the legs of Jesus Christ were not broken. I submit, therefore, that he did not die.
My lord, the testimony states that the soldier responsible for breaking the condemned men's legs perceived that Jesus was already dead. So the exercise was pointless.
I submit that he was mistaken.
There were two other criminals crucified with him, were there not? Why do you suppose Jesus should have died if they did not?
Well, he was in a weaker condition, my lord. He'd been awake all night, brutally flogged and mistreated, and his side had been pierced by a spear.
I see, and you contest the suggestion that he was alive?
Most certainly, my lord. Moreover, when he was removed from the cross, he was tightly bound in linen and buried. For 3 days he was without food and water. But it's ludicrous to suppose that he could recover so as to release himself and remove a vast rock from the entrance to his grave and then continue as though nothing had happened.
Would you deny to the craftsman who builds a clock the technical ability to rewind it before it stops?
My lord, once we believe in the craftsman...
I'll not commit myself, Mr. Lamb, other than to say that there is sufficient evidence here to put before a jury. They must decide as they will. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, my lord. Time for a quick one before lunch?
Certainly. Good. Get down to the...